Welcome to the Sporticos Football Stories podcast. It's Friday, the 13th of September 2024. Spooky. I'm Craig Resnik-Hanson, and today I'm joined by Ollie K. Ollie is a die-hard Luton Town fan and one of the hosts of the OK Football Show. Today we get into stadium relocations, transfer sell-on fees, the depths of the conference to the highs of the Premier League, and much more. So sit back, relax, and enjoy our chat with the one and only Ollie K. Just a quick disclaimer, Ollie was kind enough to come on again. We actually sat down and chatted during the summer, but due to some technical difficulties inside my brain, that wonderful chat will never be heard. So here we go for take two. Hi Ollie, how are you doing?
I'm doing good, Craig. Thanks for having me on again.
Take two.
Take two.
We did this before back in the summer during the Euros. And things were quite optimistic then, despite relegation, because obviously, the season hadn't started. Before we get too deep into your Luton Town journey, what's the feeling among the fan base after what has been a rough start in the Championship?
Well, shouldn't we talk about the Euros first? I think England are going to get to the final, and I think we're going to lose the final. Obviously, last time we discussed England's chances in the Euros, didn't we? Yeah, so what's the feeling in the fan base? We approached this with quite a bit of positivity towards at the beginning of the season with off-season. It's weird talking about it now that, pre-season's just a distant memory. And you probably noticed from all the external pundits, like the people that cover the Championship, everyone was big on Luton, really big on Luton, saying, yeah, Luton will steamroll the league. Luton will finish first or second, immediate return to the Premier League. The feeling within the fan base was slightly different. Obviously, there were some that were thinking, yeah, this should be pretty cut and dry. We'll be absolutely fine. Others were thinking, we might have to tread water for a season or two. And there were some bold statements from our CEO, Gary Sweet, and manager Rob Edwards, who both said, no, we will be up there challenging. We will. And the reality is the Championship is a very hard league. We've known it. We've been in it before. We had a way of playing before, which it wasn't the prettiest football, but it was effective, be solid at the back, attack very quickly. And what we've seen through pre-season, as well as for the latter half of last season, was a change in our identity, how we play football. And Rob Edwards has brought his philosophy in. And I would say, no, it hasn't clicked just yet. Maybe there are some things that do need to be tweaked here and there. But the green shoots of success are there, because if you look at the underlying metrics of how we performed, we are creating chances. It's just a case of we're just a bit too leaky at the back at the moment. But these are things that can be resolved, fortunately.
So do you still feel that, even though it's been a tough start, it's still early days, is there still a lot of optimism then that the club will bounce straight back up? And more importantly, should they? Because, sometimes there's the argument for a little bit of consolidation. Was the first promotion a bit too early? Would this one again be a bit too early? Would you be set up to survive in the Premier League? What's the sort of overall feeling on that from your side?
So we would say, if we were to immediately return, firstly, I'll say no one has a divine right to promotion. No one. If we were to return to the Premier League, yes, would be set up a bit more in terms of the infrastructure of the club. But I feel the only way we're actually going to be at home in the Premier League is when we do have our new stadium, which should be here in 2027, 28, potentially, in terms of straight infrastructure. Anyone can go to the Premier League. You can, providing you're set up for the broadcasting, you can go there with a 5,000 seater stadium, really. In terms of the optimism, it's not misplaced. It really isn't. I do feel there's there is a lot more to come from us this season. Is consolidation the worst thing that could happen at Luton Town? Not necessarily. Yes, if we were to consolidate, we'd lose some players that we did incredibly well to keep hold of in this transfer window. Your Alfie Doughties, who you probably noticed is the highest rated player on FC25. Now, what a metric that is. But he is fantastic, and you saw his output in the Premier League last season. He was great, and he would be at home pretty much at any side in the Premier League. Um, in terms of in terms of Ted Mengi, yeah, we'd lose him, but no, we have a recruitment idea. So to be honest, pretty much, yeah, yeah, we would recruit, replace, we'd sell for a big profit. So yeah, it's all good.
Speaking of players who you've held on to during the summer, and you're right to say that keeping Doughty in itself is somewhat of a coup. As a Warsaw fan, can I just say, when are you going to sell Adebayo? Can you please just sell Adebayo for as much money as possible so that we can get some kickback on that, please? Come on.
Yeah, so there have like the day after the transfer window closed, there was some noise about Elijah Adebayo being mooted for a move to Everton, and that would be in the region of 15 to 20 million. Look, we're Luton. You can't take advantage of us just because we're Luton. We have some financial backing. We have all that parachute payment money. We have the money, the broadcast revenue from the Premier League. And if we're going to sell, we sell for big money. So, hopefully there's a nice little kickback there for Walsall, because, we took a rough diamond. We made him an absolute sensation of a footballer. You didn't see the best of him at Walsall. You really didn't. But we
No, definitely
see,
not. He's come
yeah,
on leaps and bounds.
he's so good. Just whenever he plays, sure, he's missed 7 big chances this season. Like, we're recording this before the Millwall Luton game, Saturday 12:30 kickoff, and I feel he is going to click. Those chances, those nearly chances, those misses, they're going to become goals. And I can see him getting 20 plus goals this season. When he plays, he looks like an adult playing football with children. He's that good. And, fair play, Walsall. I hope there's a nice windfall for you. I hope it's more than 20 million, because Walsall deserve it.
Well, as you said, that's one of the great things about the sort of the broadcaster money and the parachute payments, that we don't have to see what we used to see maybe 20 years ago, where someone could just come in and steal Adebayo for nothing. And that would be terrible, obviously, most importantly for Luton, and also in my case for Warsaw. It looks like the reality is in January, maybe a couple Premier League clubs struggling. They really need someone, and they're going to have to pay up, right? They're going to have to pay up.
Yeah, look, the January window, it's one of the worst windows in terms of paying a premium for what you want. Like, if you've played like half the season and you notice there's a gap in your squad, yeah, you can't just go knocking on someone's door and be like, yeah, we need this player. They'll be like, well, we also need this player.
Yep.
You better pay up. Like, if someone were to come in for Elijah Adebayo, who is absolutely key in our team, or if someone were to come in for Alfie Doughty, who is, again, absolutely key, especially because he takes all our set pieces, you got to pay up. And that is the economics of football as well. That is the trickle down economics of the pyramid, because a Premier League team will come for, someone in the championship, like a key player in the championship. We saw it with Crystal Palace last season. They came in for Adam Wharton, and then Blackburn have to go and find someone else. And it trickles down into the lower leagues as, the best players in League One or League Two are picked up. And I think that's what makes the English football pyramid so good as well.
Yeah, it's a fantastic system, because even as far down as League Two, as those League Two teams lose their players, they then go fishing in the National League, or the National League North and South. And I've seen that with Walsall as well. We picked up some fantastic players from the National League during the summer. And it works for everyone, I guess, until you reach the very bottom of the pyramid. But moving aside from the football for one second, you mentioned the new stadium. Kenilworth Road is quite polarizing for non-Luton fans. You know, some people love it, some people hate it. What do you make of it as a home fan, and will you be sad to leave?
Why is it polarizing? It's the greatest stadium in English football.
I think it's awesome, genuinely, and of course, I would being a lower league fan, and I loved seeing that ground in the Premier League. I just thought seeing it on Sky Sports, TNT Sports all the time. But you know, from what I can tell on Twitter, not everyone is in love with it. Not every away fan, for example, is in love with it.
Yeah, well, the I don't care what the prawn sandwich brigade think of our beautiful stadium. It's the last bastion of how football used to be. Everyone taking pictures of our away end. Yes, it's the most photographed away end in probably world football. That is how football used to be. If you look at what Filbert Street used to look like, it was nearly identical with the entrance to the stadium through the houses. It's that is what football used to be. It, Brighton get a lot of things right, but if you've gone to the Amex, it's in the middle of nowhere. It really is. I
Yeah.
think a stadium being in the heart of the community, yes, it's an absolute nightmare to park if you drive there. It's about a 15-20 minute walk from the station. The new stadium is going to be right next to the station, even more in the heart of the town. But the stadium being there in the sort of buried into Berry Park, it's brilliant for the local community. They love it. And although they will be sad to see it go, I'm sure they'll be delighted that, they don't have to move their cars once or twice a week anymore at risk of it being towed somewhere. Um, It's a beautiful stadium. We've made a change. Like if you remember the beach huts on the far side, the bobbers stand, that was knocked down ahead of us getting to the Premier League and rebuilt at a cost of 13 million pounds in 13 weeks to add another, one and a half, 2,000 seats there, new dugouts. It's all glitz and glamour. The club absolutely smashed it with that. And hopefully they get a bit more use out of it. But regarding the new stadium, it's probably the trickiest undertaking in terms of project management. It's probably the toughest relocation. And our CEO has gone on record saying Luton Town have been the hardest side to relocate in the history of English football. And I, for one, agree with him. We've been trying to move from Kenilworth Road for the past 70 years. There were ideas that we'd move to Milton Keynes in the 80s. That got shut down. We had a patch of land just off Junction 10 that we were trying to move to in the early 2000s. Again, like sort of the Brighton model of having a stadium out in the middle of nowhere, that got shut down. We owned the land. We got planning permission on it. We sold it to JP Morgan's commercial arm. They're building a bunch of serviced offices there. And we have taken that money and put it into the stadium development. Whereas the stadium development now, we are building on a patch of land called Power Court, which I think is an absolute sensational name for a stadium as well. I do hope they keep it.
Yeah, they should
And
actually call it that. That would be so
it's a
cool.
great name. So it's a derelict power station, and we're working on it. It's probably the largest undertaking because there's the River Lee that runs through there as well. That has to be relocated. It has to be culverted around the stadium. The ground has to be decontaminated as well because, radiation and all the other things that are associated with power stations from the 70s. And they're doing a fantastic job. And we're expecting detailed plans of what to expect from it. It's going to be residential as well as a stadium. The actual patch of land is bigger than the land that the Emirates is built on. The not the region, the Arsenal stadium. So it's gonna be beautiful, but good things come to those who wait. And
How central is it going to be,
yeah,
the new location?
it's literally next to the station. It's
Oh, it's fantastic.
fantastic. Right next to Luton Parkway. It's right there. And it'll be a 2-minute walk from the station. It's honestly the best location you can possibly get. And even better for international fans or football tourists. That there's going to be a concert hall there. There's going to be restaurants, a whole load of things. And from Luton Airport, there's the Dart, which is a high-speed railway, and it will take 10 minutes to get from Luton Airport to the stadium.
So you can
It's
actually
brilliant.
see a lot of potential upside in terms of the match day experience as well. Do you actually think it could improve it quite a lot, maybe?
Oh, 100%. And there's so I work with Hatters Heritage as well. It's a volunteer group who work with club historian Roger Wash, who is without doubt, the nicest man in football and one of the most knowledgeable, gentle souls of football. And he knows absolutely everything. He's an encyclopedia of Luton Town knowledge. And with him and Hatters Heritage, we are putting the sort of finishing touches on a Luton Town museum that's going to be there as well. And it's going to be absolutely wonderful. There's going to be relics from the days like Malcolm McDonald's boots, Ron Bainham's England caps, things that Hatters Heritage have salvaged from auction, bought, collected, preserved. The minute books from the 60s, the original club charter from 1885. All these things are going to be in this museum, and it all goes to further enhance the match day experience, because it's not a case of just turn up, watch a game of football, have a drink outside, leave. Because right now, that's what people do. People turn up, they maybe have one drink outside, but they walk mostly from the center of town, like the pubs that are in the center of town, rather than drinking at the stadium. And then after the game, everyone goes back out to the actual center of town. Whereas this is in the center of town, and there's going to be a lot more for people to do at this stadium. So we can make it a whole match day experience for people like tourists, Luton Town fans, just so much more for everyone. And it's going to be fantastic. It really will. It can't come soon enough, but will I be sad to see Kenilworth Road go? Look, it's the only thing I've ever known. Like, since going with my dad from the age of 6, it's all I know. And I will miss it so much. But yeah, for the club to move to that next level, yeah, we do need power court.
I can hear the excitement in your voice about this, the new ground, the museum, the stuff on the pitch right now, relatively speaking, compared to, previous couple of decades is potentially, at its highest. Would you say these are the glory days for you right now? For you personally?
But me personally, no, you got to take the rough with the smooth. These are, of course, the highest heights I have seen in my time following Luton. My first season following Luton, we actually got relegated from the Championship. It was called Division One at the time. And I did see us get back to the Championship about, a decade later. I've seen us go from top to bottom back up to the top. And I feel personally, talking about glory days, I feel like Luton Town being in the top two divisions is probably our natural level. So I wouldn't say these are the glory days, because it's just another day being a Luton fan, isn't it?
What have been the lowest lows if these are potentially the highest highs?
That's the lowest lows. So you ever seen your team get relegated to the conference? Like, in all
Fortunately
fairness,
not.
yeah. So in all fairness, I would say relegation to the conference wasn't as bad as the relegation to League Two. Um, it's like when we were relegated to the conference, we sort of prepared ourselves for it. We knew it was a mountain that was just impossible to climb. When you start a season with negative 30 points, you know it's a foregone conclusion. I would say the lowest lows probably in the time that I followed Luton is probably the lowest low for a lot of people. Although we still had the core supporter base, I would say, although it's a weird one because I'm saying it's the lowest low, but it also, relatively speaking, came with one of the highest highs when so during the Paul Buckle era where after 4 seasons in um in the conference, there was a bit of a fractious fan base. And to be honest, like, the state of social media at the moment, the fractious state, in all fairness, people may be overreacting just a tad considering where we have been. Under Paul Buckle, where we didn't even make the conference playoffs, that was probably where even the most ardent Luton Town fans, sure, we were happy we still had a club, but even the most hardline supporters would have thought, oh, hold on a second. This is concerning, because when we got relegated to the conference, we all expected just to bounce right back. But even that season where we missed out on the playoffs, it was still mixed in with beating Norwich, becoming the first non-league team to beat a Premier League team in the FA Cup. So even that was, relatively speaking, at the time, a very good time, the highest of the highs. Yeah, so I suppose that would be the lowest low, but you got to take all these things in your stride as a Luton Town fan because you never know what's around the corner. I'm not saying that we're going to get relegated back to the conference, but um, right now I feel we could be treading water in the championship just to find our level a bit.
What's the best thing about being a Luton fan?
Oh, that's an interesting question.
Every club has its pros and cons, right? The very biggest ones, maybe the match day experience is fantastic. The quality of the football is great. Maybe the atmosphere, not quite as good. Maybe they don't feel as connected to the club as they used to. There's some of the smaller teams, maybe they've got a great atmosphere in the ground. Maybe they really feel listened to by the club. Every club has its highs and lows, I think, in terms of being a fan. What's the best thing about being a Luton fan?
So until one of the best things is the fact that we're owned by fans of the club. Having spoken to the honorary chairman of 2020 who own us, David Wilkinson, like I think 90% of the people that are on the board were born in the L&D, Luton Dunstable Hospital. So they bleed Luton Town. And the fact is, like, as much as it irks a lot of fans that we don't splash the cash, like, look, a lot of us, we're not asking for, to drop 20 mil on players, 10 mil on players. We are hoping for a little bit of more spend. Like, as much as it annoys fans, I respect a lot they stick to their principles when it comes to recruitment. I think the only fee we paid this transfer window was like a fee up to 10 million for Mark McGuinness. We brought in money from the sales of Ryan Giles, Ross Barkley, um, and Chidozie Ogbene, but they love the club, so they don't want to gamble with the long-term future of the club, which I understand, I respect. That is one thing that a lot of other fans from a lot of other clubs, like you have teams like West Brom who, I don't even know if they know who their owner is. So that is one of the things I love about Luton Town Football Club. But off the pitch, I just feel I've met some of the best people that I will ever meet in my life through supporting Luton Town. People with the same, well, firstly, they all support the greatest football team on the planet. So they're all right in my book, but just some of the most lovely people inside the club, outside the club. Like I mentioned, working with Roger Wash, he is the loveliest man you'll ever meet, but also like people outside the club. I've met some wonderful people, whether it be through social media, on the Discord server, the Luton Town Discord server, or through Reddit. Met some great people. And I think those are the best things about Luton Town Football Club. It's the culture off the pitch as well. is on the pitch.
To finish up, Ollie, what's your prediction for this season?
Well, so in my pre-season video where myself and my co-host Mark Ryman try to predict the championship, I went for a very optimistic fifth place finish. The championship is a great league. It's probably the best league on the planet, most competitive. Literally anything can happen. So I will stick with my prediction in terms of I think Luton Town will be in and around the playoffs. I feel our sort of slow start to the season, we can draw a line under that now, use international break to sort of curtail that and say, let's treat that as a pre-season. I feel we're going to start playing from now on, and we'll get results. So I do feel we're going to have a little run up the table now. So I will say playoff push and possibly playoff finish.
Thanks, Ollie. Where can our listeners get access to your content? Because not only are you covering Luton Town, but the championship overall. So any championship club fan listeners, how can they get access to that?
Yeah, so we do on our YouTube channel, we do a weekly roundup and score prediction. So 2 shows a week on the championship. You can find us at the OK Football Show. So that's score predictions and then a weekly roundup of everything that happened on this Saturday, because we record it Sunday morning in a pub. It's a lot of fun. But if you want more Luton chat, we got like 6 or 7 Luton shows a week, including covering the Luton Town ladies, who deserve more respect because I think they're going for a promotion push this season in the Eastern Region League. It's great. Yeah. they're gonna get promoted. I'm telling you, they finished second like 4 seasons in a row. It's time for the Luton Town ladies, and they need some respect on their name. So we do all that. We have interviews with former Luton Town legends as well. Like if you check out on our YouTube, we have an interview with Brian Horton, who's known for his time at Port Vale, his time at Brighton. He managed Man City. He's had over 2,000 games in football, and he has some real stories. Yeah, check that out. And we're on Twitter at OK Football Show. We're on Insta. I think it's also OK Football Show. I don't really use Instagram, but we have someone running it. But yeah, check it all out on our YouTube as well. Like, you won't be disappointed. It's a lot of fun. We have fun with it.
Thanks so much, Ollie. Second time lucky.
Thanks, Craig.
Thanks so much for listening to the Sporticos Football Stories podcast. It was such a pleasure speaking to Ollie. We can't wait to bring you more chats with fans from across the footballing landscape, from ex-pros to bloggers, YouTubers, and much more. If you've enjoyed this episode, please consider subscribing. If you really liked it, please give us a 5-star review wherever you get your podcasts. That will help us out so much. Thanks again, and catch you next time on the Sporticos Football Stories podcast.